Seekers. So I saw this tweet by Jack Vasovic. Speech therapist reveals she's been inundated with a wave of C babies who barely speak because of the pandemic shutdowns. And this reminded me of something from the past. This is a post-millennial article, so I'll link to it. Now, March 1st of this year, I covered a tweet by Jennifer Say where she said, "This is dystopian. The CDC just lowered the standard for speech in early childhood development. Instead of highlighting the harmful effects of masking and social isolation have had in small children, the CDC just lowered the bar. Presto, no impact." And so in this video, I took note of the updated guidance posted to the CDC website, showing you some examples, also providing you a comparison to the previous standard for childhood development at a given age, drawing contrast with the updated standard, removing some of the expectations shown previously. And just providing you a specific example for this video, let's take a look at social emotional responses expected for a person at the end of 2 years of age. The new updated CDC standards: notices when others are hurt or upset, like pausing or looking sad when someone's crying, looks at your face to see how you react to a new situation. Compared to the previous standard, copies others, especially adults and older children, gets excited when around other children, shows more and more dependence, shows defiant behavior, plays mainly besides other children but is beginning to include other children, such as in chase games or in comparing language communication milestones, says at least 2 words together like more milk, and let's compare that to the previous standard, says sentence with 2 to 4 words. That's a little bit more defined with a higher expectation. And so now taking you to the new article, children fail to meet learning milestones after C, lockdowns expert. Speech is only one of several areas in which children are lagging due to the lockdowns. C babies are also seeing developmental delays in crawling and walking. A New Jersey speech therapist has reported an enormous wave of infants and toddlers unable to communicate due to C pandemic restrictions such as masking, school closures, and social distancing. According to the Daily Mail, speech pathologist Nancy Polo described this concerning phenomena as a part of a trend observed in children born during or shortly before the pandemic who are now falling behind on key milestones due to abnormal lack of social interaction. Harshening the negative effects of child social isolation were the parents' inability to get adequate help, as they were often met with lockdown-related roadblocks themselves, such as mask and V mandates and challenges on virtual doctor's appointments for toddlers. Now that the majority of C restrictions have lessened, Polo says parents are scrambling to reverse the damage in their children, signing up for expensive speech therapy sessions that may cost as much as $1,000 per month. We call these children C babies. Polo, who has over 45 years of experience under her belt, told NJ.com in a Friday interview, "I have never seen such an influx of infants and toddlers unable to communicate. There's not anything else wrong," she said of kids who are pouring into her speech center in Millbourne, New Jersey, other than they lost out on socialization. According to Polo, speech is only one of several areas in which children are lagging due to the lockdowns, with several other studies showing that these C babies are also seeing developmental delays in reaching other milestones such as crawling and walking. Delays in verbal development, however, are often the first sign of a broad issues, the expert warned. So the purpose of me doing this video and bringing this to your attention is we're now completing a loop where 6 months ago I showed you the CDC quietly updated their website to reduce the expected standards for a given child at a given age. And now we are seeing articles by speech pathologists where they're pointing out that children are indeed behind developmentally. Obviously, the CDC is not going to draw attention to their mishap in directing the guidance for pandemic safety in this age cohort. There should be a PR team within the CDC who communicates to the public the fact that the lockdowns are going to create a less intelligent C baby generation, and that the anticipation of such long-term consequences have to be taken into account when designing public safety policies. A mea culpa would be a great initial action in the interests of furthering the public mandate of the CDC. Instead, after 2 years in some of the more liberal locations, the public policy change to shy away from the masking mandates are just beginning. Here's an example of New York finally lifting the mask mandate for public transit and correctional facilities, which occurred literally a couple of days ago. Politics in the state of New York are still trending towards the reinstatement of mask requirements. Here in a tweet by Isaac Michaels, new preprint co-authored by NYS Health Commissioner at Dr. Mary Bessette finds that lifting mask requirements last spring was associated with a greater C-19 transmission. NYS should reinstate its statewide requirement before the school year begins. Remember, in studies, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials are considered to be the gold standard in determining the evidence to support a given conclusion. Observational studies provide associative evidence which often is not strong enough to make a firm conclusion. And this is just with regards to the whole idea of masks being associated with less transmission of C-19 in this particular preprint. Public policy should always be directed to find potential benefits for the public and to maximally reduce harms as much as possible. Before you, I assert that if the CDC knew that their political guidance concerning the pandemic was to likely have a negative impact on the development of children, and if this can be shown through certain investigation, then it would also be demonstrated that this change of their website to reduce the expected milestones would constitute further evidence of a conspiracy to hide the effects of previous bad policy, and in my view would constitute seas against humanity. And what I mean by that are those crimes that are certain acts proposed to commit by a state or on behalf of the state as a part of a widespread or systematic policy typically directed against civilians in times of war or peace. The violent nature of such acts are considered a severe breaching of human rights, hence the name. The minutes of meetings and documentation that led to changes in CDC policy concerning their website design should be the focus of investigation. The weakness that we have is the federal unit tasked with investigation, the FBI, does appear to show a specific cited bias at this time, which will likely prevent anything significant coming from their end. The CDC is based in the state of Georgia, and the current Attorney General of Georgia is a Republican named Christopher Carr. Just scrolling over to the Office of Attorney General for the state of Georgia, it has a headline that regards to V mandate litigation. Georgia Attorney General Carr filed 5 separate lawsuits in response to the V and mask mandates imposed by the Biden administration. As far as the power to impose any specific audit on the CDC is concerned, I would speculate that possibly this state attorney general would have some of that potential under his office's purview, though I'm not sure. I think this is a topic that should be further discussed. Something is wrong with this. We're seeing a civic pattern emerge here, and we're now seeing the consequences of previous decisions made, and I think further consequences for those decision makers should occur lest we go down this disastrous path. If the opportunity arises, truth seekers, please talk with your friends and family about this change with the CDC conveyed information concerning developmental milestones, and how now speech pathologists are finding problems in our children that are a result of these policies. Till next time, peace.